else, because the truth is, I would just be more scared.
You're not my daughter. I sure as hell ain't your dad.
I want to talk about Tommy and why he kind of really sucks. I'm not ready to talk about this scene yet. We'll do that when we compare the game to the show at the end of Season 1. At the time of recording this video, The Last of Us Season 1 has just aired Episode 6, Kin, where we get reintroduced to Tommy. I've alluded to this thought a couple of times that I think Tommy is the worst of The Last of Us. My weird hot take, my Tommy talk. Welcome to my Tommy talk. That sounds like tummy. Since the show is still going on right now, I just want to let everyone know at the top of this video, I won't be talking about anything in the game past Episode 6 without throwing up a spoiler warning. The show is definitely doing its own thing at times, or a variation of what we've seen in the game. I talked about it in my video about the two bills, A Tale of Two Bills. Go check that out, plug, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. So far, I'm really enjoying the way that the show is expanding on the story that's given to us in the game, different mediums and all that aside. I'm curious to see how I'm gonna feel by the end of this, but I want to talk about Tommy. I've been waiting for the episode where Tommy comes back since the show was announced. And I don't want this to sound like it's critical of the story. I think it's intentional in a lot of ways, or the performances by any means. Both actors do a great job. I think it's written well with the intention of kind of seeing everyone through a flawed, critical lens at times. It's one of the things that defines The Last of Us, to see the grayness in these characters, and I really enjoy that. So I don't want this to sound like I hate anything, angry about anything. I think it's kind of intentional, and I want to explore it, because I think a lot of people don't know what I mean when I say Tommy is the worst in The Last of Us, the worst of us. We don't know too much about Tommy in the game. Tommy is Joel's little brother. We allude to a lot of awful things that Joel has done in the past, as well as Tommy. The show elaborates that Tommy is the reason why they moved to Boston, as well as expanding on the concept of Tommy as a joiner. He believed that he could be a hero and help the world by joining the military. After he quit the military, he followed Joel around, doing construction work with him until the outbreak happened, and then he globbed on from group to group with Joel until he found the Fireflies and joined their cause. When he returns in the story, we also discover that he quit the Fireflies as well to join a commune, Jackson, and that he's married to the leader of that town community, Maria, who, just like Bill and Frank, get expanded on a lot more in the show versus the game. We not only get to see the scene where Maria tells Ellie about Sarah, Joel's daughter, we also learn that Maria has lost a child at the beginning of this as well. Furthermore, after seeing the very disturbing tactics that Jackson will use to protect their community, Maria in the show is basically just Joel. Tommy the Joiner joined another Joel. He kind of married his brother. When we initially engage with Tommy in the game, he drives up to Joel's house to get Joel and Sarah. Something is happening. Amid all the military presence and the evacuations that are going on, we get our first glimpse into who our protagonist Joel is, and we bounce that off of Tommy. In a lot of ways, Tommy is our conventional hero, as opposed to Joel, who just wants to survive. And we see it in both versions. Tommy sees that there are people who need help, and Joel tells him, keep driving. They have children, but so do we. That's the conversation. Off they go. I find it really hypocritical given what's going to happen later.
My cause is my family now.
In the show, Tommy gets in a fight because someone freaked out at a waitress and he stepped in and punched the guy, and now he's in jail and Joel has to go get him, and this is hours before everything goes down. No one can see that today is the last day of society coming, but it's still like Joel has to go get him. It's the middle of the night. How is this not putting Sarah in danger even without the zombie apocalypse at our doorstep? In the game, his first and biggest action, where he's operating completely on his own, is when Joel is trying to carry Sarah, his daughter, who just twisted her ankle after their car got knocked over. They're running through a restaurant. Tommy blocks the door and tells Joel, run ahead, you have Sarah. Something that Joel does. Tommy gets away from that situation fine. We don't know what happens, but he's okay. It's interesting when you kind of look at it. Joel could have set Sarah down, turned around and helped, or they could have barricaded the door and both ran off. Either way, this would have stalled for some time, possibly ensured that Joel would not run into that. And considering Joel and Tommy are still okay 20 years later, doesn't seem like they ran into more. If they did, they took them out. In the show, the scene in the bar isn't there. How I always saw it is Tommy values the concept of Joel and Sarah, a father and a daughter, a family unit, with or without him, as more valuable than he, the individual. When we finally see Tommy again, I was surprised to see him have the complete inverse response. Yes, we change over time. Yes, things have changed in the 20-year gap between the prologue and now, but here's Joel telling Tommy, I need your help getting this girl who is the cure to everything out to the Fireflies, people you used to work with, people you know. And Tommy just says no. His justification in the game being, I have a wife now. The justification he gives in the show being, not only do I have a wife, my wife is also pregnant.
My cause is my family now.
I like expanding on both Joel and Tommy's characters in the show in this way. While Joel is coming to terms with the fact he's not as capable as he once was of doing the things everyone assumes he can do, it almost felt to me, especially in the game, Tommy is now counterbalancing how he devalued himself with Joel. If Tommy's philosophy is valuing family, now it's his turn. I have a family. You have no one who will miss you when you're gone. That's always kind of how I took it. The only justification he gives for why he won't do it isn't doubt that Ellie is really immune. He doesn't doubt that he's better suited for this. His only explanation for why he won't go is his wife. I appreciate expanding on it a little more in the show, and Joel even brings up a point I always wondered in the game, which is, well, why don't both of you go? Of all the supporting cast that we run into in this game, Tommy's the only one who has an actual choice. The only other character who has survived being with Joel and Ellie at this point is Bill, and Bill did not know the full scope of what was going on with Ellie. In whether or not we leave the fate of humanity and the cure to this zombie virus to a broken man. And it's something that I think about a lot. On some levels, I think Tommy knew what he was doing or what he was doing, and in some ways I don't think he did. However, in the show,
I know you're happy for me, it's complicated for you.
again, great performances. Tommy acknowledges these things in the show. He still agrees to take her after he finds out that she's the cure. But again, his pushing point is always my wife, my family.
My cause is my family now.
It always kind of baffled me. But then it even kind of proves its own point wrong by reminding us through Joel, this is a chance for you to give your child a better future if you get Ellie to the Fireflies and they can make a cure.
Well, here's your chance to bring your kid into a better world.
While by no means is one person to blame for all of this, I like feeling how we all had a part to play in this, but Tommy is the only one who made a conscious choice. There's strength in numbers, power in numbers. If something happens to Joel, someone could still take Ellie to the Fireflies in his place. Something that we expand more on in the show than in the game, but still something that would give peace of mind. Ellie would still be safe if something happened to Joel, something we're exploring in episode 7, because something happens to Joel. As much as I'm sure it is the intention to show the power in a small story and the impact of the one for or against the all, it's so baffling to me how much Tommy directly and indirectly sets up all of the events of The Last of Us minus the actual outbreak. Because he says, go, you've got Sarah. Joel and Sarah run into that military police officer person. Tommy joining the Fireflies, telling Marlene about Joel and how if you're ever in a bind, you go find Joel. That's why Marlene trusts Joel with Ellie and sets this whole thing into motion. You can even argue that since Tommy was working so closely with Marlene, maybe she wouldn't have been wounded and needed Joel's help at all had he had stayed with the Fireflies. It's kind of baffling the ripple effect that Tommy has had on this world. However, when it comes time for him to finally be that hero, he blatantly refuses, and at least there's a little more stakes in having a child on the way in the show. In the game, it's just, sorry man, I'm married now. And it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I mentioned in my previous Last of Us video, the change that we get in the show about Joel and Tommy's relationship and the fact that Joel was talking to Tommy up until recently is a really big change. The fact that he was already planning to get a truck to drive out with Tess to make sure Tommy's okay, whereas originally Joel and Tess only agreed to do this in exchange for weapons. Joel suddenly showing up out of nowhere is good that his brother's alive. He's happy his brother's alive, but it's not a welcome visit. In both the game and the show, Maria knows Joel wants something from Tommy. She's right, because again, in the show, she's Joel. Joel needs Tommy to take Ellie. He is more suited to do this than Joel, and that's one of the reasons why I find that character so fascinating. The situation itself already illustrates the bond that's been forming from Ellie's point of view, an agency we rarely see her have as she's being moved place to place, and in the show, she's finally given a choice. Tommy or Joel. It's something that always really spoke to me. I think Tommy is supposed to represent, in his own way, someone who is better suited, knows the area, younger, stronger, as they point out in the show. Something you can do when it's not a video game where you're just mowing down countless numbers of people and traversing major cities. It makes a lot more sense in the show versus the game. In the game, you have daredevil powers. The show is playing on grounded mode. He's always been, in both versions, better suited for this than Joel, but that doesn't matter. What matters is Joel and Ellie's bond. And I think it would have made Ellie's choice resonate more if Tommy was always on board, because I feel like that's more important than, oh, well, Tommy has a family. No, I probably wouldn't blame somebody in a real world situation, but in a scripted, controlled environment, you bet I will. I feel like we lose that line a lot. A real person doing this is very different than a scripted one. Tommy could have had blue toes and the Mandalorian could have showed up. Pedro Pascal could have stopped and started singing. So again, I'm speaking here as a critical lens for a fictional character in a scripted context. I don't know where we lost that. I'm not talking about real people. So anyway, the whole argument about Tommy having a family and that's why he's not going to do it is so weak to me. And it's weird how the show expands on that point and somehow makes it weaker, because if we're going to care enough about something as trivial as marriage in the new world, the new society of things, there's no taxes, there's no paperwork. You can play rock, paper, scissors and declare yourself married if you really want to in the new world of things. But okay, I respect this. Maria is part of Joel's family now. Why isn't Ellie part of this family then? Joel has a new daughter figure, and she needs to get to the Fireflies. Let's go, Uncle Tommy. It would make more sense if they weren't speaking for years or had the level of falling out that they seem to have had in the game. And again, the first thing we see Tommy do is want to help a family because they have kids. Here's a kid right here that could help all the families.
My cause is my family now.
It's kind of hypocritical. That is the beauty of The Last of Us, is there is no 100% good, 100% bad. It's all this gray, and it's something that makes the character of Tommy so textured. I just wish we elaborated on it more, but we'll see. I just wish I understood this more, because it'd be one thing if, yes, Tommy goes with Joel and Ellie, we get a group of 3, we make it to Colorado, oh, they're in Salt Lake City. That's a bigger trip. Let's go back to Jackson and regroup. What do you mean you're going to Salt Lake City? No, you're not. That was scary enough. Something happened while you were gone. Because the reveal of now we need to go to Salt Lake City, no one knew that was coming. That's the time for everyone to behave selfishly. And I thought the show was going to do that, because we kept talking about how it's not very far away. It's an easy path. It only took a couple of days for Joel and Ellie to get there. Tommy could have done something to help. And like, oh wow, it is really helpful to have a third person here. Joel's getting sleep. Ellie and Tommy are starting to bond. And then the other shoe kind of drops. You could have done something to change this. Instead, it just feels petty, and I don't think this is an accident. The writing is so good in both versions, I think it's supposed to feel petty and selfish. I think Tommy is meant to be the worst of us. I think he's meant to be a foil of Joel, someone who just says no and lives selfishly, because end of the day, this is an opportunity that somehow begrudgingly falls in his lap, and he just accepts the role of, I guess I'm protecting this kid. It really shows us how screwed Ellie is. Damaged and traumatized as this man is, he's still moving forward with it. It's really interesting to see the version of Joel that's like, nope, I'm not going. I appreciate the foil that Tommy represents in this way. I don't know if I'm explaining that well enough, but I like that juxtaposition that the two of them represent. When Tommy had nothing to lose, he was willing to sacrifice himself to barricade a door to get Joel and Sarah to safety. The show is going to give Tommy the emotional understanding, which I love, by the way. This is just hard for you. I know you're happy for me in your own way. I really appreciate, admire that. This moment also kind of unintentionally tells me that Tommy knows on some level that he is sending his broken brother to go do the most important thing. And in the show, Pedro Pascal has this beautiful, very moving monologue about how he doesn't think he can physically do the task. There have been times where he's failed Ellie. How Tommy views Joel's capabilities was probably true at one point. He can't do this. He's not sure he physically can. There's a part of me that hopes that we'll get to this later, where subtextually maybe he also means emotionally, because I feel like that was kind of the core in the game.
Have Maria get some of your born-again friends to do it.
They got families too.
Tommy, I need this.
Again, the gameplay in the game is very action. You're doing a lot of incredible things. Joel is in incredible shape. Not to say Pedro Pascal isn't, but it makes sense. but I like this angle more. He tells Tommy that he needs this. He does not trust himself, but in a different capacity. And I'm hoping by the end of season 1, I'll have that same feeling reflecting on Joel in the show too. I just always admired this big shot daddy action hero realizing he's at his emotional limit, whereas in the show it felt like it was focusing on the physical. And either way, whether it's his physical limitations or his emotional needs, Joel is asking for help. In both instances, Tommy shoots him down, eventually coming around for a little bit, but then relents pretty easily when Joel takes the reign again of Ellie's protector. Tommy embodies all of the strengths that Joel lacks. This is the Firefly cause. This is your cause. And Tommy just responds with,
My cause is my family now.
Joel isn't your family? He sucks. He's being selfish at like the only time where him being a hero would have actually made a difference. And I do feel like we're setting up a lot of things for part 2. I'm kind of weirdly looking forward to that, and I hope we expand on this more. And I'd love to know what other people think, or if anyone else picked up on this, or if you have a rationale, politely let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe and ring the bell. Follow me on social media. I'm now going to be talking about things that have happened in the game that haven't happened yet in the show. My dad has only taken me to 2 sports, baseball and golf. All right. Given the fact that Joel cannot let Ellie be the cure, die for the cause, this is on Tommy. Could anyone have seen that coming? No, but maybe a little. If something happens to this girl, Joel will lose it. But we're still putting him in this position where someone who we don't trust, someone who we think so negatively of, is given so much responsibility. And Tommy just kind of let that happen. He might say in part 2, I would have done the same thing. I call BS. I think Tommy would have taken her to the Fireflies. Ellie says that she's okay with doing this, and Tommy would go, okay. Tommy was the right person for this if you're coming at it from the angle of caring about the greater good. When I look back at the story of The Last of Us, as far as the games go, all I think of is, it's literally Tommy's fault. I don't think he did it directly, but I think he knows this. There is no cure. The Fireflies, a cause that he used to believe in and be a part of, has failed. He knowingly left the fate of the human race to his emotionally damaged and traumatized brother, and I think that makes him the worst of us. Part 1, part 2. And it's something that I hope does get explored more in, we'll call it season 2, The Last of Us Part 2, season 2, To Last, Two of Us. At times it comes across like this is the reality that Tommy wants or Tommy needs, whether he knows this about himself or not. Again, taking the time to express who Tommy is through Joel's perspective, someone who needs to feel needed, someone who needs to be like a hero. In the old world, Tommy never got that, but here in Jackson, at least for now, Tommy does feel like a hero. He can do all this good. Everything he does and everything his partner does is so important. There's a reality where maybe Tommy doesn't want things to improve or go back too much to the old ways or to normal. I really love The Last of Us, and I like the writing of Tommy as a character. End of the day, he sucks, and I wanted to talk about it. But yeah, there you guys go. Those are just my thoughts, my rant, my weird hot take about Tommy in The Last of Us. Again, this is just for fun. It doesn't matter what I think. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell and all that good stuff. I'd love to do more videos about this, talking about characters, not just in The Last of Us, but other shows too. If there's one from an existing show I've done videos on that you want me to do in the future, let me know. I'm already working on a couple more in my downtime. I've been having fun doing this. I hope you guys are interested in it. Thank you for clicking. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, in the description, next to my merch store, gaming channel, all that nonsense, there's also a link there to a card that'll send you to resources for social awareness and education, mental health and crisis lines, Trevor Project resources, things like that, should you or someone you know need them. Thank you for watching. I hope everyone's staying safe. Wear a mask if you go out. Be mindful of others. And remember to take care of yourselves, please.